We will now introduce Dr. Paul Ward. Love is the solution. Peace is possible. Dr. Ward.
Thank you, and thank you, Taylor. Good introduction to St. Valentine's Day. So more than 10 years ago now, I went on a cruise around the Gulf of Mexico, and we went on down to the Panama Canal. But this was no ordinary cruise. This was a gratitude cruise, a conference of gratitude aboard a cruise ship. And in so many ways, this cruise proved to be a major turning point in my life. One of the people I met on that trip was an Iranian Jew. His name was Nasser Zaghi. And Nasser Zaghi just published a beautifully illustrated book. And the title of the book is Love is the Solution, Peace is Possible. And it was this book that provided the initial inspiration for my presentation today. And the title, of course. And some of the words I'll use in the presentation comes from that book. So I'm really grateful to Nasser Zaghi. Nasser had a stroke a couple of years ago, but so he's a lot, we don't see him so much as before, but he's certainly an inspiration. And the book is beautiful. I mean, it has very few words really, but lots of beautiful graphics. So a beautiful gift. And Taylor, thank you for introducing St. Valentine's Day. As I thought a little bit of words about that, because this was in fact the feast of St. Valentine. So this was sort of recognized as a significant cultural and religious and commercial now celebration of romance and love. But really my presentation today is not about sentimental love or romantic love, important though that is. You know, I want to talk today about how love can be a solution for so many of the challenges in our lives. So let me share a few words from Nasser Zaghi. He starts with, can you imagine? Can you imagine a world where love is the solution? Can you imagine a world where acceptance and tolerance are a way of living? Can you imagine a world where the language is love? Can you imagine a world where people do their best in every situation? Can you imagine a world where people never experience hate? Can you imagine a world at peace? Because love is the solution. So I hope after today's service, you'll be able to imagine a world where love is the solution. But there's a big question here. What is love? Again, just extracting a few words from Nasser's book, which I've edited to include today. But he wrote, people have been trying to define love for centuries, but it seems to be something that eludes definition. Yet we know it in the deepest part of ourselves. Like the air we breathe, love is all around us. Love is deeply personal, and we each experience and understand love in our own way. For each of us, there's a place within where we don't feel any separation, a place where we don't feel divided, a place where we feel connected to everything, a place where we feel whole. Love is an experience of oneness. When we feel love, we feel a oneness, a unity, an extraordinary closeness. Within every moment is the possibility to experience the feeling of oneness that is connection and love. When we love, separation does not exist. To love is to be fair, to be free of prejudice, dishonesty, and judgments. To love is to be our best, to do our best, to offer our highest state of being to the world. Love is being open to the experience of everything. It's the limitless, unconditional acceptance of all there is, the complete acceptance of all things. And of course, acceptance is a feature of our third UU principle. which is acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. And I'll return to spiritual growth in a little while, but let's remember acceptance. To love others is to accept them for who they are, not trying to make them into what we want them to be, nor holding expectations for how they should act or think or feel. To love others is to give them the freedom to be what they are, even if they act or live differently from us. Love is the ultimate acceptance. Love is unconditional. When we love, we allow everything, the possibility and space to exist. So today, I invite you to dwell first in the loving possibilities of the present. Let go of the fears of the future and watch how the future reflects your present expression of love. We each possess the possibility to connect with the infinite experience of love, a love that's in all things. Love is possible for all of us. Now, you're probably aware, I hope you are, the UUA has been celebrating 30 days of love. And today is day 30, the end of the 30 days of love. Side with Love Sunday. And actually, I appreciate you being here for our service rather than the UUA service, because they are also broadcasting at this time. But I do encourage you to listen to the recording of today's service. I haven't heard it yet, but I will later. And you can find more information about the 30 Days of Love on the website, sidewithlove.org. Now, each of the 4 weeks of the 30 days had a theme. And I just want to dip in a little bit to share some of that. There's a lot of resources there. I just want to share a little bit. So week 1 was living our values in the world, with the question, what is love asking of us at this moment? This is a call to love and justice, bold and brave and loving, an invitation to be loving, a love that wants everyone to be safe and free. Daily, we choose whether we're siding with love, freedom, liberation, reparations, and integrity, or whether we're siding with the violence of so many aspects of our world today. And the invitation is to choose to side with love. The second theme, the theme of the second week, was about hospitality and inclusion. And one of the readings that week was to invoke love. This was written by Reverend Sean Parker Dennison and appears in his book, Breaking and Blessing. Reverend Sean has served the Unitarian Universalist Association so many different ways over the years. And I'd just like to share a few lines from Sean's poem. To invoke love. To invoke love is to ask for a hug from a thunderstorm, spill tea in the lap of the infinite trickster, to make the biggest, most embarrassing mistake of your life in front of everyone who matters. To invoke love is to take the risk of inviting chaos to visit the spaces you spent so much time making tidy, and watch as the breath of life scatters everything you've just folded away. To invoke love is to approach every day and every person with wonder, anticipating love's arrival. Is this the moment? Is this love's grand entrance? Is this person the embodiment of love? Am I the one? To invoke love is to play the fool, the one more concerned with loving than the appearance or reputation, the one ready and willing to be vulnerable, abandoning anything that gets in love's way. To invoke love is to be ready to become love, here, now, in everything we do. Are you ready? So this is part of Reverend Sean Parker Dennison's poem. It's a lot more. I would decide I wouldn't read it all, but it's a lovely poem. Lots of thought-provoking lines in there, including that first one about hugging a thunderstorm, which is just an interesting expression. Well, the third week went on to look at education, or educating for liberation, and the final week was about restoration and repair. So I just hope you'll find a little bit of time to explore those 30 days of love on the website. There's just so much. I mean, you can get lost in there for a day, finding all the things in there, but it's a great resource. And as Marilyn said in her welcome, some people have called me the consciousness whisperer. You might be wondering what a consciousness whisperer is, but you've probably heard of animal whisperers, and maybe a dog whisperer or a horse whisperer, even an elephant whisperer. This is someone who is very in tune with what the animals are going through, someone who has the capacity to understand and interpret animal behaviors and communications. A whisperer speaks quietly, listens attentively, and gets in tune with what's going on in the animal, or in my case, the business leaders and coaching clients I work with. The consciousness whisperer is focused on raising consciousness. So you can learn a little bit more about the consciousness whisperer, as Marilyn said, on my website, drpaulward.com. Now, I define consciousness as moment-to-moment awareness. Moment-to-moment awareness. And love is a consciousness. Can we bring our consciousness, our awareness to love, to our hearts? I was reading the words of a Nigerian journalist as I prepared for this, and his name is a challenge, but it's Odimegwu Onwumer. And he wrote, "The heart of love is a gift, and it bounces from a deep sea of consciousness." The heart of love is a gift, and it bounces from a deep sea of consciousness. If everyone has the heart of love, then peace, unity, joy, and everything positive will radiate the world. So NASA, Zaggy is coming back to NASA. He also talks about the language of love. So what is your language of love? It's Valentine's Day, of course, and we can say it with flowers. Maybe some of you did that. But I want you to consider your love language every day of the year, not just on Valentine's Day. As some of you know, I teach leadership to doctoral students. I'm also a leadership coach, and I'm passionate about all things to do with leadership. And I just wanted to share Lance Secretan's his message. Lance Secretan is Canadian. He was the CEO of Manpower for many years. He says leaders either motivate by fear or inspire with love. He says we mix up the words motivate and inspire all the time. In the dictionary, motivation is described to induce, incite, or impel. We motivate with fear. How often do we try and motivate our children or our grandchildren with statements like, if you don't eat your dinner, you'll never grow tall and strong, or you don't study hard, you'll never get a good job? I'm sure you can think of other fear-based motivations. But the word inspiration comes from the Latin spirare, meaning spirit, to breathe, to give life, the breath of God. When we're inspired, it's because we love something, because we love the people we do it with, and we love the reason for doing it. Love is what powers inspiration. When we say, I love you, how can I help you? How can I serve you? Then we can inspire action. One of my favorite quotes is from Patanjali, an Indian teacher. He says, when you're inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitation. Your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents become alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed. Now, I said I'd come back to spiritual growth mentioned in our third principle. Just a reminder of our third principle: acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. And so spiritual growth for me requires loving spiritual friendships. Now, Terry Patton's one of my spiritual teachers. Terry worked with Ken Wilber on the topic of integral thinking and is the author of the book, A New Republic of the Heart. And Terry's created a social experiment, an ongoing virtual community of practice where we do our inner work, our interpersonal work, and our outer work. And last week we explored spiritual friends amidst cultural madness. Spiritual friends amidst cultural madness. And Terry talked about being acutely aware of the enormity of the ecological and climate predicament, about inequality and injustice and racism, and our culture wars and our fragile politics. We also know there are crises in most of our institutions that hold our lives, our financial and monetary and economic systems, our food and agriculture systems, healthcare, education, everywhere is under stress. Yet also saying that this is my time. I was called here now, and this is where I'm attending the school of life. And to do that, I'm imagining that each of us, at least on a good day, is finding a source of joy and creativity and courage to live fully while we're here. Being courageous enough to face the grim facts with critical discernment and recognize that those things are too serious to lose our sense of humor or our sense of wonder and joy and lightheartedness. And recognizing that this purpose that we are all here for has a lot to do with love, not sentimental love, but deep gravitas, a love that has its natural authority, that makes a consequential difference. That's certainly how I'm feeling today. So in the social experiment, this community of practice, we experience the nature of transformational spiritual friendships. We have conversations that really matter and create truly intimate, transformational, and evolutionary space. We need loving friendships with people who help us grow, with communities of deep practice. That's why we come to our UU congregations, with a higher sense of purpose that's nested in shared purposes. We need our spiritual friendships. I'm a little reminded of Stevie Wonder's words. If love and peace you treasure, then you'll hear me when I say, love's in need of love today. Love's in need of love today. We need loving spiritual relationships, spiritual friendships. And I aspire to be a loving spiritual friend to you today and to others who are on their spiritual journey. I'd like to pause here, a pause for what I might call a moment of mindfulness, a moment for reflection and contemplation. So I want you to invite you maybe just to close your eyes or soften your gaze. Let's take a few really deep breaths. Breathing in through your nose, holding just for a few seconds, and then out through your mouth. Really deep breaths. And then just allow your breathing to return to its natural rhythm. And now I invite you to imagine breathing in through your heart. You can place your hand on your heart if you wish. Bring to mind someone you love deeply. Perhaps someone you love more than anyone else in the world. Be in that place of love for a moment. How does it feel? If you were with that person now, what would you say to them? And now bring to mind someone you don't love. Perhaps someone you really dislike. Maybe someone who's done you wrong. Just be with that person for a moment. How does that feel? And maybe just staying with that person, bring back the feelings of love you experienced a few moments ago. Can you love that second person you thought of, regardless of what they've done? Can you offer love and compassion to that person? What might you say from that place of love? Maybe you need to say you're sorry. And maybe saying this Ho'oponopono mantra will help. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And now I just invite you to open your eyes, come back into our Zoom room today. And so award-winning author, feminist, and social justice activist Ella Nost said, "Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended. Not with time, as I say, but with intention. So go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The world waits in darkness for the light that is you. Love intentionally, love extravagantly, love unconditionally." And let me close where I began, with the words of Nasazaki. Each of us can use love as a solution in our life, in our family and in community, and in our world. In each of us, there's a place of love, a place where we feel connected and whole. In a place of love, we can accept ourselves, others, and our situation. We can act in a way that's fair, balanced, and whole. Each of us can do our best and express the highest we can be. In that place of love, we can find happiness, peace, fulfillment, and wholeness. The journey to that place begins inside each of us. And traveling together, we can make a better world. May it be so.